What are some common mistakes that you guys have seen? I'm sure you've seen it. And the thing is, for us as career staff, is sometimes when we share examples, the students kind of roll their eyes like, I would never do that, but they're doing it. People are doing it. So I'm going to start with Artie, if you can kind of share some of the common mistakes you've seen on a cover letter.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that has always jumped out at me is people have a generic cover letter. Just like they'll have a generic objective in their resume, and the cover letter that they send in does not match the job that they're applying for. And now I know that this person is just basically what I call a chronic applier, and they're going to apply to everything. So they're not really serious. So take the time to alter your cover letter to match the job that you're applying for. Then the little things, make sure the font is the same font the entire way through. Make sure your grammar and spelling are perfect. These are little things that, when I don't know how many of us actually have time to read cover letters, but when we do, this is what I'm looking for in a particular cover letter.
I do think that often people aren't reading them, but they're scanning them quickly, right? If you notice the font is different or it starts off generically or is saying the wrong job, it's going to put them in the no pile.
You made very vital points. If you are going to add in the cover letter, just, make sure you are really tailoring it to the company, the title, the skill set. It's not even just like the title, but like they're looking for someone that, organized or, something to that extent. Even if you haven't had a job that's given you all of that, you should try to find something that you have done that would highlight that to put in the cover letter. Yeah, I think he nailed it. If you are going to do it, just make sure it's well done. Sometimes you think folks are not reading it, but you never know. Like if you are going to include it, you put it out there. So just make sure it's a good reflection of who you are and what you are trying to convey in yourself as an applicant.
And definitely make sure that if it's requested, it is included. Like if you apply for a job at CUNY, it's requested. I know in book publishing, they've often said they like to see a cover letter. So if you're not sure, that's where asking your network, how important is that cover letter for that company. So that's why using that inside scoop can be helpful when you're not sure. So moving on to resumes, kind of similarly, what are some mistakes that you've seen on a resume that again might seem like there's no way that happens, but it happens enough that that's an issue. I'm going to start with Kwame.
Spelling mistakes aside, I think we all know we should proofread everything that we put out there, especially professionally and with school. We've done enough schooling amongst all of us here that we know this. But you'd be surprised how many people go into the job market and are sending out resumes with, spelling mistakes all over the place that they didn't catch, or grammatical mistakes that they just didn't, think are there. Your sentencing in your bullets on your resume can be different from a traditional sentence in the sense that often people write, did XYZ. I think it always helps to be more an active voice when you're writing those sentences out, right? So in charge of managing X amount of people to accomplish XYZ tasks, right? Try to speak more in an active voice. That's not a mistake, but it's more of a tip, I guess. But often people will bounce between what's the balance between speaking in one tense and another tense. If you pick a tense, stick to the tense. So if we're speaking in an active voice, make it active all the way through. I don't want to read under one job that you were managing this, now you're doing that. Are you still in that job or not? Because now you're speaking as if that job is a past tense, but it's also a current tense. Which one are we talking about, right? So keep your tense consistent, make your sentences as succinct, that means like short and direct and clear as possible, and avoid repeating the job title in your bullet points, please, because that just becomes lazy for a recruiter. If I'm reading the job title that I posted online on your resume just as I posted it, I feel like you just picked it up offline, put it on your resume to try to make yourself stand out and that you didn't actually do that job, right? Or if your job title that's on your resume is repeated in what you did, right? If your job title is salesperson, I don't know, men's suiting, and your bullet pointing starts with sold men's suits. very obvious, right? In your job title. You don't need to read it again. What was some of the more constructive things that you did in that job that will make you stand out? Because I read your first 3 bullets and I decide, I'm sorry, but I don't have a lot of time, like Artie said, to read every resume. So I read your first 2, 3 bullets and I decide, are you worth contacting? Are you worth reading more about? Are you worth speaking to, right? So that first 2 to 3 bullets, pack it with anything you think is impressive or what you've done, not just things that repeat your job title or whatever catchwords you think are going to catch my eye from the job that I posted.
Focus on accomplishments, because everyone applying hopefully meets the minimum qualification. So now you're trying to differentiate yourself amongst everybody else that is applying with similar experience. Serena.
Oh, good. I'm glad you called on me. So I would say fluffy language. Like sometimes in resumes, you'll see, I'm a great multitasker, seasoned professional, like fluffy language that doesn't mean anything. So I think, when I'm looking at a resume, I want to actually see like what you did and what was the impact of what you did. So even if it's just, and I think I'm getting ahead of myself with the next question, but I think even if it's just a group project or, a leadership position that you had in your fraternity or sorority or, extracurricular activity, or, even if you worked in a retail store or in a restaurant, what is it about it that you did and what did you do that, made an impact, right? So I think kind of piggybacking on Kwame's, statement is just like, what did you actually do? And what was the impact of what you did? So I think that those are some of the things I'm looking for in a resume. And, in addition to all of the other grammatical and format things, but also wanted to add with a cover letter. When I read a cover letter, sometimes it's because I recognize some sort of out of the box candidate has some interesting experience that may not fit completely with, like, may not mirror the job description, but I can see some sort of I might see something in that person's resume that could be an interesting fit for the role. So sometimes I'll refer to the cover letter to see if I can learn something more about that candidate or how that candidate is drawing the connection between their resume and this job. So sometimes that's what I'm looking for in a cover letter. And then in other companies sometimes just want to see how you write. So that's also important with the cover letter. But otherwise, most of the time I don't look at it. I look at it when I feel like I want more information. When I want to know more about you, I'll look at the cover letter.